Hello everyone. Today we're going to discuss about the topic which is SWOT. So SWOT basically means strength, weakness, opportunities and strength. Now when you talk about SWOT, it basically means that the company analyzes its internal as well as external environmental factors and tries to reduce the best practice and the best service or the best product that it can finally offer to the customer after improving upon its current situation, and at the end also earn profits out of it, right? So I've made some notes, and I'm going to read through them. I'm obviously going to put them in the video as well for you to easily understand, and we're going to end this video with an example of SWOT, where we'll discuss about Apple as a brand and its SWOT analysis. Okay, so let's begin. So the first one in the SWOT is S, which is strength. Now, when we talk about strength, it is basically one of the internal marketing factor or the internal marketing environment of a company, where the company analyzes what are its strengths. So basically, what are the positives it is currently relying on and working in the market against its competitors, right? So this can basically be what processes the company is currently following, which is leading them to the current level of success. Okay, what are the company assets? Now company assets can be knowledge that it provides to its employees, the education that leads to the certain processes or the certain services that finally reach to the end customer, the network of the company. So what's the network? The skill set of the people that work in the company, the reputation of the company in the market. So all these factors come under the company assets. Okay, now while these are virtual assets, something that is of creating the persona of the or the identity of the brand. Other than that, the third thing is the physical assets also. So the physical assets of the companies are also very important. The physical assets are basically the customers, the product itself, the technology, the machinery, the patents that the company has. So all these are also the physical assets that are a very important part of the company's strength, right? Other than that, one more important thing that is part of the company's strength is its competitive advantage. What is that differentiating factor that the company works on or currently has, apart from its competitors? So that is again an important factor that constitutes of the strength of the company. Now this is very important to analyze where you currently stand, because then only you will know your weaknesses, your opportunities, and what are the threats, right? Now I come to the second internal environmental factor, that's the weakness. Now you know your strengths, and as you jot down your strengths, right, of the company, you will come across some of the weaknesses also. So some of the places where you are lacking. Now these weaknesses are like questions that you need to ask yourself as a company, as a brand, which basically include that where do you actually need to improve, right? What is the scope of improvement? That's one. What is something that your competitor is doing better than you, and you need to really catch upon that, right? What are the resources that you like? Now the resources can be the physical resources or the company assets that we discussed in the strengths, right? So you might be lacking in machinery, you might be lacking in technology, you might be lacking in the right kind of people that work for you in the company, you might not be catering to the correct customer segment. So all these are the resources that you might be lacking in and you need to leverage soon, right? Now the tangible assets that I have already discussed, so that's part of the assets, right? The assets and the resources. So the tangible assets is the machinery, the money, the funding. So all these things, if you think it's lacking, that is what you jot down in the weakness part of the SWOT analysis. Again, very important, right? Now, once we are done with strength and weakness, which are the internal factors, which are easier to collect because that is something that is internal and you know where you're going wrong and what are your strengths, we come to the external factors. Now, external factors The first one is the opportunities. Now, opportunities is really important because once you have your strengths and weaknesses, you know that okay, this is the place where I need to leverage upon, right? Now, opportunities basically means that a company or a brand has a very high probability of satisfying the buyer's needs and at the same time earn more profits than what they are actually have doing, right? I'll repeat again. So it's like a very high probability of satisfying the buyer's needs, their interests, and earning profits for the company. That's what should account for the opportunities list. That should be the ultimate goal, right? So that comes under opportunities. Now, how can we do it? Now we can do it with three major things. Okay, first is you offer something that is in short supply, right? Second is your existing supply of the product or the service can be improved with either a new product or the betterment of the existing product that you offer, again, because that will again solve the customer's problem and that will again increase your profit. So rather than bringing something new to the market, you can improve upon what you already have. Most companies do that, right? Most companies, they launch new products, but they also improve upon the existing ones. So and they work on different price ranges and all those things. So that is where the company doesn't lose the market cap. So again, important. Third one is offer a completely new service out of it, right? So the first one was offer something that is in short supply, so you know what's missing in the market. The second one is you improve upon what you already have. Third one is completely offer something new in the market that will cater to entire new segment, entirely new market cap, and no competitor is there. So that is also another way of looking at things. So one is you penetrate into the market, one is you capture a whole new market, you develop a whole new market by providing something that is not already existing in the market, right? So these are the three ways where you can generate the opportunities after you know your strengths and weaknesses. Now, once you know your strengths, weaknesses, and you know the opportunities that are there in the market, you need to analyze the threats. Now, threats is something that need to be analyzed pre-launch or revamping your strategy. So you need to know what are the hindrances that you might suffer, right? You might face that you need to really be careful of. You need to handle them before, or you need to be ready to handle them as they come along, right? Now, these threats can be unfavorable trends, unfavorable developments in the market, something that is not in your hand, but you can predict that might hinder your sales and profits. So those are threats, right? Simple examples, as you're developing a new product, there's a chance that your competitor also develops something superior than you and launches that their product before you launch your new product, or before you launch your improved product. Their improved product is much better than yours. So in that case, there's high probability that customers will go for their product than yours, even though you have spent so much time, money, and efforts in the R&D and development of new product and all those things. So this is obviously a threat. So you need to take care. You need to find out what your competitors are doing. You need to find out the gaps in the market, and you need to be ready for those threats so that you need to cover it up. Another very common is something like an economic depression. So if you remember COVID, so that was the time of great inflation. Demand of all the hedonic goods went down. People were down to utilitarian needs. They were down to just survival mode was on for everyone. So that was a time where economy took a hit, and it is still trying to recover from that. Many countries are still in experts are saying that the recession is on the way. Some countries are facing it already. So this economic depression also affects the demand of the product or of a particular product and a service, and obviously it's always a threat, right? So yeah, that is one. Another thing that is very common in threats is what you are offering is how much costlier than what your competitor is offering. So if your product costs more than your competitor, and if it has the equal strength or equal specifications of same as that of a competitor, then there's highly chance that people will shift to your competitor and won't buy your product. So this is basically a pricing strategy. So pricing strategy, economic depression, competitor developing a better product than you. These are basic examples, right? But these are the first things that come under threat, right? So yeah, so you need to analyze all the four aspects, right? Your strength, your weakness, or the opportunities in the market, in the industry that you're working in, and the threats basically. So all four constitute to become the SWOT analysis of a company, of a brand, of an individual, which ultimately leads to better marketing decisions overall, better product building decisions, better sales decisions, and better profitability decisions, right? Now let's talk about SWOT analysis. Let's take an example of a brand like Apple, right? Now let's talk about the strengths of Apple as a brand. Okay, so if I talk about strengths, so Apple has very high global value as a brand. So brand value of Apple as a brand is very high. It's one of the biggest profitable organizations in the world, and it has its own aura, its own market, that brand value that it carries. Okay, Apple has another strength, which is its loyal customer base. Its global acceptance as a brand is very high, right? Apple is known to be technologically advanced. It's basically a trendsetter in the market. If you see the current trend being the island display on the iPhones, right? So sooner or later you're gonna see many Android phones copying that. And there have been many things in the past that people copy from Apple, right? So they are known to be trendsetters. So when someone is a trendsetter, that they have a first mover advantage. They have a sense of urgency in the customers to buy their product. They generate a sense of excitement. So that's the strength, the positivity that Apple as a brand brings. Okay, very proficient R&D. So they have very high technologically advanced, knowledgeable assets as people, engineer, right, that work day and night for a product. They have their own set of rules, their own set of products that come into market, and a very extensive research and development department. So that's another strength, right? Now other strengths that we can talk about is their network, right? The network of devices, how multiple products of Apple are in sync with each other. They have their own network, they have their own web, structured in a way that all the products are in such a sync. They have their own environment in which it resides. So all this are make very high strength points for the brand like Apple. Let's talk about weaknesses. Weaknesses for a brand like Apple can be very very unique and sometimes very common also. So for example, the first weakness, which is a very common talked about weakness for a brand like Apple, is the premium pricing. Now the premium pricing attracts a lot of people, but it also is not able to capture many people who are looking for budget products but want something like Apple. So Apple might create an aspirational value for itself as a brand, but obviously its premium pricing is a weakness. Apple has been trying to work on it. They have been thinking of lowering the price or setting a certain price of their mid-range products or maybe entry-level products. So they are trying to bring that down, but still Apple products are known to be premium in pricing, right? Another weakness that we can talk about is the portability issue, right? So if someone wants to shift from Android to Apple, right, still a problem. Not a very good solution for everyone, not an easy way to do that, and also not an easy shift for someone who's using Android and it comes to an Apple space in terms of the whole usage experience, right? So again, a weakness that they again need to work upon. Third weakness that we can talk about is Apple, apart from the devices, is trying to go into a lot of different spaces. For example, recently they tried to launch their Apple TV, right? So they tried to go into the streaming universe, where they tried to compete directly with Netflix, Prime, Amazon Prime and all those places, where they have not been that successful, but still they are trying that, right? So it's again a place where we would call it as a weakness right now, but they still need to explore. We don't know, right? If they have an extensive R&D, they have an extensive feedback coming from the customers. So in future, they might take over. Netflix is anyway falling, right? So people are going away from Netflix. So we don't know. But right now, it's one of the weakness, right? Because whenever you launch a new service or a new product, there's a lot of money that has gone in. And with money, you have projections associated with it. You have sales associated with it. You have your targets. You have profit targets, right? So if you don't match those, obviously it's still a weakness, right? You need to work on it. Okay. Next option. Next weakness we can talk about is probably still Apple universe has compatibility issues with a lot of softwares. So there are many softwares that are highly compatible with Androids, Windows, right? And they still struggle to be that much compatible with the likes of Apple, right? So Apple UI still has some problem with coming up with the compatibility with 100% of the softwares. Even today, many companies, they first launch their softwares updates for Androids and Windows, and it takes them time to launch it for Apple, and sometimes it takes quite a lot of time for it to come to an Apple store, or have the updates or something ready for Apple universe. So again, compatibility issues are definitely there. So this is again a weakness. Now that we have discussed the strength and weaknesses, let's talk about opportunities. Now, most of the time, the weaknesses are the points that becomes opportunities as well. So whatever is the weakness of the company, that increases the scope of opportunities, right? Whatever you are weak in, you have the scope of improvement, and obviously those scope of improvements become your opportunities, right? Still discussing upon the opportunities, first one is the customer retention rate, right? So Apple really needs to work more upon their retention rate, although they already have a very high retention rate, but that retention rate can still grow further, right? Because once you are in their space, it's always better to keep the person inside rather than that person shifting just because he's not comfortable with the UI or something, right? So they always need to, there's always scope of growth, right? So retention rate can always increase, although it's about 92% for Apple, but why not, right? Now, the distribution network of the company again is something that they can work upon, where they can have better distribution of the products, better pricing of the products. This is something that they can really work on. Another important area that I feel is important for Apple in future is the AI industry. So Apple has been very strong with its products other than the iPhone and the Macs and iPads, right? They have their watches and the AirPods and all those products, right? But I think Apple is if one company other than Google that can do it, I think it's Apple, where they can be very extensively working on the the AI enabled wearables. I think that is something that they can consider, and it is one of very good opportunities to work on, right? Another place where Apple has an opportunity in current time, where we see that a lot of companies struggled, is Apple can facilitate the production of its own chipsets and semiconductors. If Apple comes into this, it will be a game changer for them, right? Semiconductor chips and all these small components that come from Asian countries. If the Apple decides to extensively, put money into it, again, a game changer for them, right? Now let's talk about threats, right? Now the first and the foremost threat that Apple themselves have discussed is their dependency on a country like China for manufacturing, right? That's their biggest threat. So you cannot rely on a single country and its norms for your maximum production and distribution processes. There's something that Apple has also addressed, and you will see they are shifting their flow from China to India. They're preferring that most of the iPhones you buy in India are made and assembled in India. Slowly and steadily, they want more plants to come into a country like India, because we also have cheap labor, right? We also have all the facilities that China can provide. So again, their dependency on one country is a threat to them, but I think they're already working on that, right? So yeah, that is one strength right now. Threat right now. Another important threat that is very common and very funny is the counterfeit products. So before Apple even launches something, its counterfeit is already in the market, right? And that too, it's like in you can get those counterfeits in pennies, right? So the aspiration value of Apple is so high that people are ready to buy counterfeit just to show that they have that product in their hand, even though it's fake, right? That is something that they need to counter, because that directly affects their sales. Because even if someone has an aspiration to buy, they will never go for the actual product if they get the same quality. And you won't believe, the counterfeits are really very good. They are such a good master copy that sometimes you can't even tell the difference, especially in watches and the AirPods industry, right? So that's also increasing competition is another important. So competitors are always after Apple. They take the steps that are countermeasured, right? They have their flagships that are very close to Apple, and these flagships of many companies they have such high intensified camera qualities, great screens, great displays. So Snapdragons are really out of hand. Gorilla glasses, you have 150 144 hertz refresh rates. So competitors are really catching up, and somehow we feel like Apple is lacking behind, or it's slow in its approach. So yeah, it really needs to cater to that, because apart from first world countries, Apple still needs a lot of market penetration and capture in other countries, even in India. Although people are accepting and buying iPhones, but still Androids from Oppo, Vivo, Realme, Mi, Redmi, Samsung, these are still game changers, right? So yeah, these were the major SWOT factors, or SWOT points for a company like Apple. So in the same way, you can also pick up any company of your choice and think about it, and maybe write those pointers. Maybe 4 points each would work for start, and think how it actually works and how it is really important for a company to do the SWOT analysis for themselves. Because eventually it's all about profits. It's all about providing a good product to the customer, and at the end of the day, it's all about capturing the maximum potential of a product or a service by the brand, right? So with this, I'll put all those pointers in the screen. I think you'll be able to see them as I speak, right? So I'll do that. For any questions, please put them down in the comments. I'll try to respond to them as quickly as possible. And if there's any topic that you want me to cover first, do let me know. So I'll be happy to do that. I know this has been a long video, but I think that this video was due. So yeah, thank you so much. If you like this video, please like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel, and all the best. Bye.